The term Indochina was coined in the early 19th century. It emphasizes the cultural influence of the Indian civilization and the Chinese civilization in this area now called mainland Southeast Asia, including Myanmar, continental Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. The term French Indochina was later adopted as the name of the French colonial territories in Southeast Asia, comprising Cambodia, Laos, and 3 Vietnamese regions of Tonkin, Annam, and Cochin China. China traditionally looked to its neighbors as the most important countries in its foreign policy domain. These are the states that had tributary relationships with China for centuries. It is a region that is heavily influenced by Chinese culture. Vietnam's culture has been influenced by the Confucian moral principles and Taoist philosophy since the Han Dynasty, which began in 206 BC. Chinese have spread throughout Southeast Asia, visibly in finance and market sectors in Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore. The China-Indochina Peninsula Economic Corridor, CICPEC, was initiated in 2010 and incorporated later into the Belt and Road Initiative. The economic corridor connects several cities in southern China with the major cities of Southeast Asia, including Hanoi in Vietnam, Vientiane in Laos, Phnom Penh in Cambodia, Bangkok in Thailand, Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, and Singapore with the modern road, rail, and pipelines. The corridor serves as an important infrastructure for Red China's domination of Southeast Asia. Cambodia is one of China's closest allies in Southeast Asia. China has become Cambodia's largest economic and political influencer, foreign investor, bilateral donor, trading partner, buyer of Cambodian rice, and the largest source of foreign tourists in the country. Since the inception of the Belt and Road Initiative in 2013, Cambodia has embraced and aims to transform it into a source of national development. Cambodian leaders have benefited greatly from cooperation with China under the BRI framework. While gambling is illegal in China, casinos are springing up in Cambodia by Chinese companies targeting Chinese and other foreign tourists. 90% of the casinos in Cambodia are owned by Chinese. This has dire consequences for locals, squeezing their income from traditional backpackers and pushing Cambodians into dangerous jobs on construction sites. By bringing a casino industry to Cambodia, Red China caused many residents to lose their homes, increased criminal activities, and reaped the rewards without benefiting the locals. Online casinos became the new norm in Cambodia as dealers don't have to see gamblers in person. Card dealers would interact with CCTV cameras while Chinese in China can place their bets from the comfort of their own homes. The money never left China to come to Cambodia. Meanwhile, Cambodians are struggling with rising costs of living, more crimes, loss of cultivated lands, and a damaged environment. China is Laos' largest foreign investor and aid provider, as well as its second largest trade partner. When Laos hosted the 25th Southeast Asia Games in 2009, China stepped in to build the 20,000-seat new National Laos Stadium, in exchange for the development rights to a 4,000-acre parcel, which borders the northeastern edges of the capital, Vientiane, for an unusual fee. Its development would draw heavily on mainland Chinese labor to build shops, hotels, and housing. The ecological diversity of the site, not to mention the cultural significance of a nearby Buddhist national monument, would take a back seat to the urban project. And the new development would provide a shocking contrast to the nation's sleepy fishing villages and tranquil rural lifestyle. In 111 BC, Chinese troops invaded the kingdom of Nam Viet. The Chinese rule lasted 1,050 years, until 939 AD. During this long period of Chinese domination, revolts and uprisings, attempts at getting rid of the Chinese domination were conducted regularly. The first successful uprising was in 40 AD, with the sisters Trung Trac and Trung Ni. However, the first independence lasted only 3 years. Following a massive offensive by Chinese troops in 43 AD, the Trung sisters had to flee their capital and on their flight jumped into the Hat River to drown themselves. It was not until 939 that Vietnamese naval forces under the command of Duc Nguyen destroyed the Chinese fleet on the Bac Dong River, ending Chinese rule and inaugurating a long period of independence for Vietnam. A new Sino-Vietnamese War broke out from 1075 to 1077. Anticipating an attack by the Song dynasty, General Li Tuong Kiet decided to attack Chinese territory, destroying all Chinese forts and besieging the citadel of Yangzhou. Out of supplies, Yangzhou fell after 42 days. The conflict ended the same year when the Song Emperor accepted a peace agreement with the Vietnamese court. In the 13th century, between 1285 and 1288, Vietnam successfully repelled 3 attacks by Mongolian troops from China. A great victory by the general Chen Hung Dao on the same Bac Dong River ended the conquering ambitions of the descendants of Genghis Khan. In the 15th century, Chinese armies invaded Vietnam again and imposed a new era of Chinese colonization. A 10-year resistance under the leadership of Le Loi freed the country from Chinese rule in 1427. Finally, in the 18th century, Chinese troops from the Qing dynasty invaded Hanoi. The Chinese army was once again trounced by Vietnamese Emperor Yun Hui's troops in 5 days in 1789. In early 1979, shortly after the end of the Vietnam War, China attacked Vietnam in response to Vietnam's invasion and occupation of Cambodia in 1978, which ended the rule of the Chinese-backed Khmer Rouge, who was committing genocide of its own people. On February 15th, Deng Xiaoping declared that China would give Vietnam a lesson to support China's ally, the Khmer Rouge of Cambodia. After 3 days of bloody fighting, the People's Liberation Army claimed to have crushed several of the Vietnamese People's Army's regular units. On March 6, 1979, China declared that the gate to Hanoi was open and that their punitive mission had been achieved. On the way back to the Chinese border, the PLA destroyed all local infrastructure and housing, and looted all useful equipment and resources, including livestock, severely weakening Vietnam's economy. In 1974 and again in 1988, the Chinese Navy forcefully occupied both the Paracel and Spratly archipelagos in the East Asia Sea from Vietnam. In 2014, a series of anti-China protests occurred, followed by unrest and demonstrations across Vietnam. The protests were in response to China deploying an oil rig in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone, as well as Vietnamese government's plans to lease Vietnam's strategic land to China for 99 years. In southern Vietnam cities, industrial parks and factories with Chinese characters on their signboards were attacked and vandalized. Anti-China sentiment was fueled with grievances among Vietnamese workers who were being exploited and subjected to harsh working conditions imposed by their Chinese employers.